And we're back.
I'm getting whiplash. We're back, bumble bitches.
Episode 31 of season 2 of the To Be Better podcast.
So much has happened. You don't get to see any of it.
Nope. Patreon does, though, as they've been hanging out with us for the last 2 hours.
Yes, they have.
We are doing, we just did episode 30. Didn't even turn the cameras off. This is the way we are doing our podcast moving forward.
Live on Patreon.
Although from time to time we do need to record in the whiskey room because I really enjoy sitting in that room, and that's the only time we ever use that room is to record or do advertisement.
I think we should get a couch back there so we can snuggle and watch movies together.
Okay. Get a bigger, yeah, we could do that.
Or we can move the brown couch that we have now back
and then
there.
get a bigger, yeah. That would be the move.
I would love to get a bigger couch for the living room.
Well, that's going to be after we figure out what we're doing with
the wall.
The wall, right.
Capiche.
We just did the episode where we were talking about red flags and green flags. That was, I feel like, a productive conversation. It was just a thought-provoking episode. Gives us a break from having to read emails, but alas, it's time to work.
Yes.
So let's jump into some emails, hotness.
Okay, so this one is titled, Am I a Bad Mom / Partner for Wanting to Leave?
No.
So this says, themes, healing after traumatic relationship, dating, pregnancy, grief, and processing after the death of a loved one. Processing is highlighted, and there's a little note that says, also deals with lack of accountability.
Oh.
All right. Hello, and thank you so much for reading my email. I have been hesitant to reach out because my situation feels very confusing and it takes me quite a while to put it into words. I can tell this is 10 pages.
Holy shit.
All right. I've tried to be very selective about who I ask for advice or who I vent to because there's so much misdirection and contagious misery surrounding relationships nowadays. From what I've heard of your conversations and podcasts so far, you have both Oh, I tripped that up because I would have written thus far instead of so far because that just sounds elegant. Yeah. So I'm going to redo that or my brain won't stop. From what I've heard, your conversations and podcasts thus far, you've both represent healthy boundaries, honesty, and respect towards one another and to the people in your life. And that is no small accomplishment. Oh, God, thank you. It's taken so hard, so long, and such a hard, strenuous road to be kind to people.
I struggle with it still.
It's, oh gosh, especially if they're being nasty to you. It's so hard to be kind. Back to the email. My intention in reaching out to you is finding clarity and feedback that has substance. I believe you guys will have the patience to understand my situation and have valuable insight. Thank you in advance for listening.
All right, I have a question.
Pausing.
In reading all of that, does this feel like they're just looking for somebody to validate them and they believe that we're going to do it?
So let's see here.
Because they said that they don't normally ask people for advice because of all the
misdirection.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like they obviously either trust what we're going to say or they believe we're going to validate what they're going through.
I believe it's one or the other, yeah.
Okay.
That we're going to give honest feedback or they're thinking that we're just going to validate or they're looking for permission.
Okay.
That's my third hypothesis. Hypotheses.
Would hypothesize.
Hypothesis. Thank you for being goofy with me.
Of course.
Back to the email. I apologize for the length of the backstory, but I believe that it's essential in understanding, or at least essential to helping me feel understood. Ooh. Okay. I believe it's essential in understanding, or at least essential to helping me feel understood. So I'm going to pause on that. Essential to helping me feel understood. Is what you're saying matters if nobody understands what you're saying? Like if you're having a conversation and you're trying to get your point across and the information is not helpful to anyone but your emotional state, is what you're conversing about. And okay, so when I say matters, I mean productive. Because if this whole email is a trauma dump, but she feels it helps her be understood, at the end of this email, we may have nothing for you.
Right.
Does that make sense? Okay.
I also falls back to my question is, do you think that this emailer is looking for validation?
Maybe.
Okay. Because they believe that we're going to jump on the bandwagon.
Perhaps. My partner and I have been together for almost 3 years. When we were dating, we were monogamous but pretty casual, spending most weekends together and some evenings. When I was living with my best friend at the time and working 10-hour days, I was living with my best friend at the time and working 10-hour days. I had also just gotten out of an abusive relationship. I was trying to process my thoughts and feelings about it all. So there was no time in between the abusive relationship and you getting into a relationship with this gentleman. Is that my understanding? Are we understanding the same thing? Mm-hmm. Okay. When we first started dating, I was upfront about all of that and stated that I liked him and desired more time with him, but I honestly had to prioritize myself so I could get a foundation built again before I could be more serious and move forward with him. I like that. He stated that he was fine with whatever time I needed and that he would love to spend some time together in the meantime. He had been living with a roommate and working the same job for 6 to 7 years quite happily and didn't seem very stressed about anything. I fell for him for many reasons. He loved to laugh. He had figured out work that he loved doing. He made me feel safe to be myself, and I never felt pressured to perform or fix something. My time with him was healing to my soul and helped me find a way back to myself after spending years locked in my own head, trying to justify the misery that surrounded me. This background is important because things rapidly changed in a heartbeat.
Okay, this is also important because he was your light in a darkness, and he had no stress, and he loved to laugh. I made a note. He loved to laugh and was not stressed. He loved his job. 6 to 7 years. He was very stable.
Right.
She saw that, and it was probably something she craved because she hadn't healed from her past relationship, so she was wanting it.
Right. Makes sense. Almost a year into dating, I found out that I was pregnant. It was a surprise because he had been told that due to an injury, he wouldn't be able to have kids. Although I've always wanted to be a mother, I felt very frightened because I didn't feel ready. We weren't living together, I was working for minimum wage, and did not have a savings. When I told him the news, he was elated and made me feel so safe. He talked about getting a higher paying job to make sure that we had enough money for the baby and would go out of his way to make me feel special. It sounds silly, but he would take off my boots for me after I got off of work, even when I insisted I could do it myself. These things made me feel like I actually belonged to someone and I wasn't disposable. Although I was scared, I felt like our relationship was healthy and I was ready to make plans to live together and prepare for the next stage in our relationship. Unfortunately, on Thanksgiving morning, 3 weeks after we found out about the pregnancy, his best friend of 15 years passed away suddenly. Not only was this man his best and only friend, but was his only sense of family. He was put up for adoption when he was a toddler and adopted by a very abusive woman. My partner was absolutely devastated and can barely function. It seemed to put him into shock, and all I could do was handle things myself and hope that time would help heal him. All I could do was handle things myself and hope that time would help heal him. I did my best to listen, to talk about what he was feeling and be supportive. Okay. One thought process I had. I don't know the way that is written. All I could do was handle things myself and hope that time would help heal him. The point of being. Okay, I'm gonna rephrase that. The point of having community is to have people to lean on and help you through times like that. So the way that that's phrased is all I could do was handle things by myself, meaning life things. That's how I'm interpreting that. Handling things equates to life things and hope that time would help heal him is kind of going, I can't really do anything here. Which, okay.
Right, I agree. I would also like to point out in that the roles have reversed. because he was taking care of her, taking her boots off, trying to put her as a priority, and then tragedy struck. His world has been upside down at this point. I've made a bunch of notes because I'm sure we're going to get into this later, but it's important to recognize that he needed her right then and there.
Right.
So from your standpoint of, it sounds like there's nothing she can do, but wait, it doesn't. She could have been there for him.
Right.
More importantly, she could have been understanding. He was adopted, just lost his only friend, best friend, has no family, and now that his best friend is gone, he doesn't have a support system anymore either. Right? So like, there needs to be empathy and understanding there, especially if they have no one else. Okay.
I did my best to listen, to talk about what he was feeling and be supportive. Shortly after his friend's death, he began acting very anxious and would pick fights about almost anything. He began accusing me of not caring about him. Do you want me to wait until they're done back there?
It's not picking up.
Okay.
I know it's loud to us, but it's not coming through. Okay.
Shortly after his friend's death, he began acting very anxious and would pick fights about almost anything. He began accusing me of not caring about him and said that I was only with him because I got stuck with him. He began isolating himself and becoming more and more unreachable. I spent 7 months out of my pregnancy working 10-hour days and was desperately trying to figure out how to afford a place to rent.
Why would you have a child with somebody that you're not living with?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you guys are going to have a...
Well, he was told by a doctor that he was infertile.
I understand that.
Yeah.
No. That's not how that was worded. Unless I misheard, the doctor wasn't there. He believed he was infertile because of an injury. That's an assumption. That doesn't indicate tests were done.
It was a surprise because he had been told that due to an injury, he wouldn't be able to have kids.
Okay, so he was told. I still think there should have been tests done to be sure before you're running around fucking...
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Leaving your baby batter everywhere. I still stand by that, though. Why would you have a child with somebody that you're not living with? She's 7 months pregnant and still living on her own. Is she just going to raise this child on her own and them not live together? Like, that's a huge concern. That alone is a problem.
Yeah.
As for the other aspect of this, she said that he was very distant and like became more and more withdrawn from the relationship
anxious
because of the things that were being said. So what happened there? Because that's not... You just gave us a 7-month timeline where you gave us no information as to what was happening.
Right. I'm going to reread the sentence of, he began accusing me of not caring about him. It's not accusatory if that's how he feels.
Right.
And you just kind of, the way that was phrased prior, that all you could do was handle things yourself and hope time would heal him, very much as, I'm putting my hands up in the air. I can't do anything here.
Right.
I'm just going to stand off on the sidelines and hope for the best. So if that was the mindset you had and you weren't trying to, babe, let's go out and get coffee. Let's get a shower today and go do something. Let's get out of the house. Let's do a puzzle together. Something to get the brain engaged and doing something together to show that you're there to be supportive. So if he was saying you don't care about him, I 100% believe that.
Or at least that he believes that.
I believe that he believes that.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the probing thing, right? Like, we don't know why he said that.
Right.
There's no information there other than he said that shit. So what were you doing to make him not believe that you care about him?
Right. When you were spending time with him, were you on your phone all the time?
Right.
Right. An assumption because there's no, or a hypothetical because there's no information.
Right. And this could be depression. Again, losing your only support system and your best friend of 15 years is a huge hit, especially when you don't have anyone else to fall back on.
Yeah.
And if he's not able to talk to you and you've withdrawn, now he's isolated, not by choice, but by force, because he doesn't have anyone else. And the person that's supposed to be his woman isn't there. It's a lot. There's a whole lot to that. There's a whole lot there that's not being discussed.
Yeah. Or brushed under the rug.
Yeah, absolutely.
Continuing on.
Yep.
I had moved in with him and his roommate. It was the best option financially. He spent my entire pregnancy unemployed and locked in his room. Okay, well, there was no elaboration on that. He was at the same job for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So how did that just stop being a thing? That doesn't just happen. There's a massive fallout there.
Right.
To be employed for almost a decade and consistently go to work and support yourself, this is a massive disruption in this man's life.
Well, if he didn't work for 7 months, how was he paying his bills? Because he had a roommate. Like he was either was the roommate or he had a roommate. So did he just have 6 or 7 years of savings that he's blowing through? Like, is he selling dope? There's a whole lot of questions. This is the problem with you guys sending shit like this.
Yeah. He spent my entire pregnancy unemployed and locked in his bedroom. My entire pregnancy comes across as victim-y to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It could have been said for the entire pregnancy, he was unemployed in his bedroom. So the two words that are sending off red flags in my brain, not red flags, but like alert, like pay attention to this. Which is possessive. And when we are possessive of something, we take it personally. And then entire. That is an exaggerating word, right? It's to put emphasis on how long.
Yep.
Yeah.
She also said that she moved in with him for financial reasons.
Right. Moved in with him and his roommate for financial reasons.
It was the best things financially. So that she's not there because she wants to be or because she loves him.
Right.
So that is also a statement that is clearly articulated. Right.
Yeah. Convenience. And the breakdown of sentences like this and the way that things are phrased is to better understand the way that we communicate.
Mm-hmm.
If we can pay attention to the words that we are using or the way that we are emphasizing our points, then we can alter the way the conversations play out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Back into the email, it was difficult to get him to participate in anything, and when he did, he often found a way to blame what he was feeling on me. He began starting arguments that would last hours and would leave me in tears. Okay. So you hit us with, he spent the pregnancy unemployed, locked into his bedroom, and then went on to how his moods affected you in a negative way. There was no discussion of how he lost his job, why he's unemployed,
Right.
what that fallout looked like for him. Okay.
Before you move on, I will point out that
I'm going to grab a drink real quick.
I believe he... Okay. Will you grab me another one too, please?
Yeah.
I believe he needs therapy, first and foremost, because he lost somebody that he loved. It was his only family member, only support system, whatever. We've covered that. So there's clearly a depression there. You're able to hear me still, right? Yes. Okay. The other thing that I want to point out is she said that he loved to laugh and was not stressed, had the same job for 6 or 7 years. 1 year into it, they got pregnant. She had no money. She was working minimum wage, so she was broke. He had no problem stepping up, was taking her boots off, doing everything that he could to make her life right, and was supporting her. And then the friend lost happened. Do you really believe, out of everything that's been listed in this email, that the loss of the friend is what changed everything?
Me?
Yeah.
I think the loss of the friend was the catalyst. And then recognizing that he is with a woman who is pregnant, and this is me assuming things, not really putting much work into making sure that I am okay as her partner.
Right.
And I think that is the second blow up, right? The aftershock of the major catastrophe. Oh my God, I really have no one, and now I have a woman pregnant with my child, and I don't know if this is what I want with life. Me assuming things once again.
Trauma does really wild shit to people.
It does.
Right? So I cannot say for a fact that that's not the catalyst of what happened.
Right.
However, I do believe that it is far more likely that he is now trapped with a woman who is pregnant that does not appreciate him, and they have a rocky relationship, and there's a whole lot of bullshit going on there, and the person that he was is now gone, and he's become a shell of a person because he's trying to do more than he signed up to do, right? And the loss of the friend and the support system probably added to that, but I'm willing to bet that she had a hand in a lot of this, because you don't go from
happy, cheerful, laughing,
non-stressed 6 or 7 year job that you love,
right,
good personality, the light and the darkness. If that happened, if Peaches became not Peaches, and you changed over the course of the year and you were living as the exact opposite of what you are, I would have no way to justify anything other than it's something that I've done over the last year, because this isn't who you fucking are.
Right.
Right? Like, your personality type is your personality type. People in shitty situations where they don't feel they can leave or they feel obligated to stay, they cope. They shift their personality, their views, they become a shell of a person. Like, there's a lot to that. And I don't think that any of this or all of this is solely based on the fact that he lost his best friend. I just don't.
Yeah. I agree. I'm going to continue reading. The heaviest one I remember is when there's a fucking gnat.
I know, it was flying around me a minute ago.
I'm so scared I'm going to inhale it.
So what?
Oh, I don't want to inhale it. I feel like I need a...
The old lady who swallowed a fly?
Oh, God. The heaviest one I remember is when he said he wanted a paternity test because he stated that because I didn't give him the time he wanted when we were dating, he had to assume I was using him and seeing other people.
Okay, pause. Wait. Because, okay, there's something that was just mentioned in the thing. He was adopted.
Yeah.
So being a parent could be a scary thing for him too. However, with the I want a paternity test, I didn't have a whole lot of time while we were dating to get to know you, to do all of that. So now we have more information. However, if he was told that he could never have kids and now somebody's pregnant saying that it's his, why the fuck wouldn't you get a paternity test?
Paternity test.
That should have been the first thing. Oh, you're pregnant? Cool, paternity test. Like,
how?
Yeah. Yep, okay. So now there's a disbelief and a trust factor involved.
Yep.
I ate less than half of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ate all my mac and cheese and half of my tater tots.
Yep. That's a lot. There's a lot to this. How were the tater tots? They're really hit or miss.
They were a little too well done today. I like the outside being crispy, but the inside being super soft. And this is just super crispy.
Dry, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to add on, he had to assume I was using him and seeing other people. So
She also said they were very, very casual.
Right.
That was used in the beginning too.
I'm going to scroll back up just to double check.
This is why I make notes.
When we were dating, we were monogamous, but pretty casual. You're right. So if part of being pretty casual was you were being flirty with random dudes on the internet on Facebook, or maybe posting provocatively on Instagram, again, all assumptions and me throwing out hypotheticals. We're creating a world to better understand things. There's multiple ways to make a burger, guys.
Yep. And all of this is hypothetical.
Yes. So. But if I were a man and I wanted more time at the beginning, but there was a boundary laid and I respected it, and then I saw flirting happening elsewhere, but we agreed that we're kind of seeing each other and we have our attention here, and then suddenly you're pregnant and I'm told I can't have kids, that is a lot to process.
Yep.
That's a lot to connect the dots on. Back to the email.
Yeah, I would also like to think that there are people out there who have been told that they can't have children and they forego protection most of the time.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, well, it's not going to happen to me.
Right. Doctor said it.
There's a whole lot of stupidity that happens when I'm just thinking with my dick. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm curious how many times he has played that game and nothing has come of it. Doesn't mean that it can't happen.
Right.
But if it's been hundreds of times and nothing's ever come of it.
Right. Or the accident happened when he was 15 years old.
Right. There's going to be more of that baby ain't mine. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because of the trial and error that's progressed.
Right. All right. Back into the email. I was heartbroken that he could yell at me while I was pregnant with his child. And now I have to ask, were you yelling at him? Because I'm going to match your energy. No matter what's going on, you're not going to disrespect me like that. And once things simmer back down, I am 100%, I will raise my voice to calm things down. Because now I have your attention. Or just walk away.
During pregnancy, that would be the answer.
Yeah, walking away.
Knowing what I know now about what I read from the epigenetics from that book, It Didn't Begin With You. Mm-hmm. That shit that happens in pregnancy makes babies anxious, and it stunts their development, and it creates a whole lot of
issues, developmentally wise.
Yes, developmental issues growing up.
So if you have a daughter, the trauma experienced in pregnancy and in utero will transfer to her eggs.
Yep. Which will in turn transfer to her grandkids, kids and grandkids.
Our son was born a few weeks early, and the birth was pretty traumatic for me. I had a C-section and a lot of blood transfusion and was hit pretty severely with postpartum depression. I had hoped that the birth of our son would shake some of the grief that we got into a routine at home. Yeah, oh gosh. If prolonged grief that affects daily life goes on for more than 1 month, we're seeking therapy. Like, if your whole personality has changed and you are explosive and we have a baby on the way, 4 weeks to get it in gear, babe. And then we're going to go start seeking out therapists. Like, this is what needs to happen for us to have the family that we've started.
I think it's important to recognize that she thinks that having a child was going to snap out his grief.
Oh, God, no.
Depression is depression.
Right.
This is like having a baby to save a marriage. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. This should have been dealt with way before it got to the point of actually having the baby.
100%.
Because now things are now amplified because he's going through whatever he's going through still. He should have gotten therapy. He said that earlier. He didn't. Mm-hmm. Now you're going through postpartum depression. You're dealing with hormones and a whole lot of other shit. And there's a baby there now.
And a newborn.
The whole situation and everything has changed. And if he's not working and she's working full time, like, this is a lot. This is life-changing shit. This isn't just a simple disagreement anymore, right? This is no longer we're not getting along. There's another life involved, an expensive life involved.
He eventually stopped helping, and when he did, he found a way to make it seem like I wasn't doing my job. He was still not working, and my savings was almost depleted, and I was more and more anxious about how we could take care of everything. I was handling all of the childcare, going to doctor's appointments by myself, grocery shopping, getting us Medicaid and food stamps, and going to food and diaper pantries by myself with our son in tow. I've had to borrow money and accept help from my dad and a few friends to cover the bare minimum, and his roommate, who is 72 and still working, has been paying our half of rent and utilities.
How do you got a 72-year-old roommate? Make that make sense. How many young people in their 20s or 30s know people who are in their 70s and are willing to live with them?
The only thing I can imagine is like a Craigslist ad.
Or a family member.
Maybe a family friend, maybe.
I don't know.
But now this is giving me mooching vibes.
Yeah.
Well, like, that doesn't make sense to me because he had a job for 7 years. Was he single for those 7 years and that was his only option was to work for himself, and then you came in and started providing finances and he was like, okay, I can take a step back?
It's possible.
It doesn't make sense to me how we got from point A to point B.
Okay, so this speaks to safety nets.
Okay, it does, yes.
We had this conversation privately this morning about something else. As long as somebody has something to fall back on and they don't have to worry about taking care of themselves because they know someone's always going to help them, they will always fall back to that.
Right.
Letting other people carry the weight of their load instead of actually stepping up and doing the thing because nobody's let them hit rock bottom yet. Until you hit rock bottom, you don't know what you're really capable of doing, right? And like, you don't know how bad it can get. So even though he's broke and probably miserable and depressed and has a kid, things are still kind of working for him because Churches are giving him food and paying their bills. Roommates paying the rent. He hasn't had to pay rent in a while.
Dad's giving money.
Dad's giving money, right? Like she's handling the stressful load of everything. So if that's the case and he's actually a workless person, who is allowing others to take care of him, that's a problem. That's a huge fucking problem. But how do you go from working 6 or 7 years and loving your job to that?
Right. She really left out a lot of detail.
Right. I wish there was more information.
Me too. I had to start sleeping on the couch in the living room with the baby's bassinet beside me because I started snoring with the pregnancy and he couldn't get sleep with me in the room.
Why didn't he go sleep on the couch? Let's talk about that. This is not relevant to the podcast at all.
Can you put it on you? I want to smoke.
I snore. Right.
You do snore.
And I am so self-conscious about snoring that when I snore, I wake myself up. But I also know how light of a sleeper I am. So sometimes I can do like a loud snore one time and I'm up. And there's other times that there's like,
yeah.
When I exhale, somebody told me that that's part of the sleep apnea. But and then I wake myself up. Mm-hmm. That's enough for me to wake myself. I can hear the feet sticking to the tile when they're trying to be quiet.
Yeah.
And I'll wake up. Now, if they're walking through the house being loud, not giving a fuck, I'll sleep right through that shit.
It's because they're trying to be sneaky.
Right. It throws off the chi of the home. And I know that. I have heard you snore once. Mm-hmm. And it was while we were on the couch watching TV, you like snored. And I looked over at you like, bitch, did you just snore? And I was like, that was so fucking cute because it wasn't like a bear sawing a log. It literally sounded like a snort in your sleep. But if we were in bed and you were snoring or having coughing fits and I woke up and it continued and I was like, hey babe, you're snoring, roll over, and you rolled over and it didn't stop, I'm going to sleep on the couch. I'm not making you do that. You're obviously in a deep sleep. You're having a good rest. Why the fuck would I interrupt that?
Right.
I don't understand that shit.
Oh man. Okay, continuing on. I felt very isolated from friends and family. Most of my things were in storage. I didn't have the ability to nest or truly prepare for being a homemaker. Everything fell out of my control as I struggled to adjust to being a mom.
Okay, so now, all right, going back to both of us. This speaks to, if this is true, and she's not done anything in this, and this is solely her being an actual victim here, she is actually a victim. Because this scenario would indicate that he is an abuser.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. I felt the need to say that because this is getting to the point now where he's isolated her.
Right.
To keep her away from all of her friends and family. She hasn't been able to nest. He is controlling everything, fucking up the finances. He has got her in a position where she is fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not fully fucked, though. She has a job. She has finances.
She doesn't, though. She's now broke, and they're going to food pantries and churches to try to get money for bills. Roommate's helping. She blew through her savings because he's not working. She's got WIC, Medicaid, Medicare. Like, they're struggling. Finances are hard now. And he's not doing anything to help, according to the email.
Right.
So though she does have a job, being in the position she's in, that job is not going to be enough to get her out of that poverty. Right. She's going to have to find somebody else to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
When our son was 2 months old, his dog of 10 years passed away from cancer, and it felt like a tidal wave of anger and grief. The arguments became daily occurrences, sometimes even starting first thing in the morning. He wouldn't interact with us unless we came into the bedroom and joined his world. Things escalated when the arguments wouldn't end. They would last anywhere from 6 hours to multiple days. I would beg him to pause and start the conversation again in the morning, but he wouldn't let me, saying that I never resolve things and I can't keep running away from our problems. But I was literally falling apart at the seams, being sleep deprived, and trying to take care of our son while he yelled at me and called me names.
If this is not reciprocated energy, this is abuse.
This is abuse.
Okay.
I spent a night at a friend's house with our son to get some space and calm down, and that only made things worse. That's one of the biggest red flags for me. If me taking space for myself in a non-destructive way is a problem, I don't foresee how the relationship can go forward.
I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
If we were having problems, even with no kid, and you needed to get away and you went somewhere other than a hotel, like if you went and stayed at a friend's house and that friend was a dude, we're having problems in our relationship or marriage, and you're staying at another guy's house to get space.
Well, that's not challenging me. I agree with that.
Right. Well, I'm just challenging what you said. So
Right.
I guess I'm basically.
That's not. I view that as destructive.
I'm right. Okay. I'm adding to the thought then.
Okay.
Because you would need to go stay at a hotel or with family members. I also want to point out that at this point, there's 3 of them living, and he's living in his bedroom and she's living in the living room. They're not together.
No.
They're not living as a couple. They're not living as mom and dad. They're not treating this baby as mom and dad. They are actively living as roommates, and she has to go into that room to spend time with him or for him to be a part of their family.
Yeah.
There's a lot to this. And if this is just how she views the situation, that's one thing, but I am very curious to see his side of things.
Yeah.
And if he is an abuser and a manipulator, his side of things would eventually clear that up. We would be able to see that by the way he described things.
The way that he would verbalize his perspective of the experiences.
Right. But I'm willing to bet that even though he probably is, because this is pretty abusive.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that she's not an angel in this.
I spent months trying to reason with him and find out what he was needing from me while also trying to advocate for myself and our son. I want to pause because I just had a thought. If he was like this in the beginning, right, say that he's at the same job for 6 or 7 years, but he calls off once a week. And the job is fine with it because they're low on employees and he knows the job. Right? They're able to make up for it, whatever they do. And even though that he was laughing and having fun and was super chill and not stressed, was he still a dick? Did he come across as somebody who had issues with people?
No, he didn't. Not according to the beginning of the email.
Right, not the way that she phrased it, but that's what I'm asking now, because the only way I can see somebody becoming so comfortable with abusing the mother of their child is they had these tendencies prior.
Right.
And it was just amplified with the death of the friend, the newborn baby, now the death of the dog.
See, that's what I thought too. That's actually what I thought too in the beginning of this. Mm-hmm. The way that she described him in the beginning, though, it made it sound like he was a good dude. Like,
right, like this sounds like a totally different person.
Right. So either he faked it at the beginning and he's like a legit abuser, and this is just one of those times where that's actually the case, where there's been instance after instance after instance, and they've both changed, and he's trapped. Mm-hmm. And they don't get along. He doesn't love her. They don't like each other. Like, it could be a whole lot of things, but those conversations need to be had. More importantly, if he is depressed and all of this is actually because of the loss of the best friend and the dog, he should be going to therapy.
Yeah.
And if he can't go to therapy because he can't afford therapy, there are other resources that he can be looking into. But if the situation is toxic, the question in the email was, should she be feeling guilty about leaving?
Oh, that was just the title of the email.
Right. But if that's the case, if that's what you're asking, at this point in the email, you should have left already.
100%.
The moment you had to start living in that living room with your baby, it's time to move the fuck on.
Because a true partner would not tolerate that. Right. No, you're my woman. You're going to sleep in the bed with me. Yeah.
Yep. I'm curious how much of this is previous fights and arguments, the lack of belief that the baby's his. I'm curious if there's been a DNA test yet. The baby's born at this point. A DNA test is just a fucking cotton swab for the two of them.
Right.
There's a whole lot of things that are possible underlying issues that could easily be addressed. Mm-hmm. And if they were easily addressed, maybe that would change the outcome of the way things are going. However, if not, and he's actually, I don't know, man. I just feel like there's not enough information here.
I agree. Janae commented and said that she did say that they were casual and that they did not live together. He could have been hiding a lot.
He could have, absolutely.
That's a really good point. I totally forgot about they didn't move in together until she was X amount of months pregnant.
Have you ever watched that movie? I think it's called Pain with Mark Wahlberg. Not Pain and Gain. I think it's just called Pain. Nope. All right, give me a second. Fear. It's called Fear. I knew it was a 4-letter word. It's called Fear. It's where he meets a girl, pretends to be like the greatest dude ever, takes a dart and dips it in ink and tattoos Nicole forever on his fucking stomach. There's a scene in that movie where he beheads the family dog and puts it through the doggy door. Like, for real, like, psychotic, crazy shit. But it
Can we
started
watch
off.
this?
No, but we will. It's one of my favorite movies ever made because it shows the complete destruction of the psyche in a human being and the way things fall apart.
Right.
And he utterly terrorized this family. Like, such a good fucking movie. Very underrated. And this was when Mark was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an older movie. It's fucking intense. But the point that I'm bringing up is if he's that character in all of this and he put off that facade, he still can absolutely be that way. I just don't think that that's a very common thing.
Right.
Okay.
Our son was about 5 months old when I decided to stay with my friend indefinitely until things were calm enough for me to stay with him again. He immediately started talking about self-deleting.
That's the manipulation tactic.
Stating that I've taken everything away from him. Did I ever tell you about the time that I broke up with a dude and he sent me pictures of him cutting himself?
No. How would you handle that? Oh my God, this is gonna get us in all kinds of trouble. I don't even know if we should have this conversation. Nope, we don't need to have this conversation because I'm gonna get real nasty.
Although I explicitly stated that I would never keep our son away from him, he accused me of destroying the family. Yeah, that's a manipulation and control tactic.
Absolutely. And there was no family there to begin with.
Right, you guys were sleeping in separate bedrooms. He's not helping around the house. There's no intimacy.
It also didn't sound like they were in a real relationship.
Right.
They were casually dating without talking to other people.
And she got pregnant. Yeah. I never broke up with him, just stated that I needed some space in order to function and have clarity to communicate effectively with him. I told him that he needed to be serious about being a father and a partner, and that he can't lose himself to pain and lash out at everyone else. I agree with that. He was looking through my phone and becoming suspicious of everything. He has stated multiple times that he has the right to look through my conversations and things, even in secret.
No, he doesn't.
No.
Dude, I have such a hard time with this. Go ahead.
I also have a hard time with this. If you were in a room one-on-one with one of your friends having a conversation and you both agreed we are not going to speak about this again, he would never know of that conversation.
Right.
The fact that it's in text form does not give him the right to know about that conversation.
I agree. When you do that, you are removing the
individuality, the privacy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're removing the discretion of the other person as well. Mm-hmm. Because it's an invasion of another person's privacy, not just your partner's.
Right.
I also don't go through your purse. Mm-hmm. If I ever saw you open my wallet, I have nothing in there but credit cards. I would feel utterly betrayed over that. Like, what are you going? There's no money in there. Money's in the money clip. Yeah. My wallet literally holds credit cards and business cards. It is the most useless piece of leather I own.
Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no reason for me to be in your wallet. So if I'm in your wallet, what the fuck are you up to?
Why are you doing that?
Are you trying to like sneak a credit card? What?
Right.
That's what my mind would go to.
Mine would be just, I would want to know why you're doing it. If you're like, babe, I'm going to grab the Apple card. Okay. Mm-hmm. At that point, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If you were like, babe, go grab my wallet out of my purse, unless I can see it and just be like, crane, the claw. I'm not doing that. I'm bringing your entire purse across the house. There are just things that are
personal.
Yes. Why not keep it that way? We don't need to be so enmeshed that our lives are just commingled to the point where we're the human centipede.
Yes. That also strips away. I want to go back to stripping away the individuality and the privacy. If you were telling me I have the right to go through your conversations, even when you don't know I'm doing it, I would never have an honest conversation with anyone ever again. I'm not having text message conversations. I'm not interacting on social medias. Like, this is now something that's being surveillanced. I no longer have my freedom of speech. I'm not divulging, like venting. I'm not going to vent to anybody. I'm not going to try to seek validation from anybody. Because when somebody goes through a phone, whether they find what they're looking for or not, their feelings are going to get hurt. And I am not going to try to make waves. If this is the relationship, I would become a shell of a human being.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Do you think that that is another form of premeditated psychological control?
What do you mean premeditated?
So it's premeditated. If he knew that telling her that he can go through her shit whenever the fuck he wants and there's nothing she can do about it, he has that right. It allows him to know that she no longer has the ability to speak freely to the people in her lives and have honest conversations.
Oh, like he had that thought process of...
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the question again?
Do you think that's premeditated psychological control? It's warfare,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
it's psyops.
If it is done with the thought, with the intent of, I am doing this so I can control what is happening, and knowing that, and her knowing that I'm watching this will limit her conversations with other people, it's 100% psychological warfare. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely premeditated. That sounds like a war plan.
Right. It's definitely psychological abuse.
Yeah.
It's control. Like, that's like expert level control.
Full blown. You have worked on this. I can tell.
Wow.
Back into the email. I told him that I didn't mind if he wanted to look, but I wanted to know that he was doing it. I felt weird about it being behind my back. He started telling me that I didn't care about him, that I was emotionally steamrolling him and gaslighting him. See, when they change the conversation like that, my response would be, no, let's finish what we were talking about here and then we can dive into what you're feeling.
Right.
Do you understand that I'm not okay with you doing this behind my back? And then they bring up whatever they want to bring up again. No, this is the question at hand. I am more than willing to talk about how I'm emotionally steamrolling you and how you feel gaslit by me. But I need to know that you're understanding the topic of conversation right now.
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
Safe to say that there's no difference between looking at the phone in the bathroom or the living room if I'm around in the living room and not in the bathroom. Because what's on the phone is on the phone.
Right.
Right? Okay, so if this was us and I was like, you can go through my phone wherever the fuck you want, but I want to be there while you do it. That, I guess, is no different, right? In that you're going to see the same thing no matter what. The only difference is that I'm there for a peace of mind so that maybe I can have a conversation with you.
Clear anything
we can
up
talk
that.
about it. The biggest aspect of that, though, is that I feel like I can still trust you because you're honest about going through it. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because the difference is you're snooping and trying to be sneaky, which is what you're accusing me of by going through my phone. If you're like, hey, I'm gonna go through your phone, here you go, and you go through my phone and we know about it, there's no secrecy there. Like, you made your intentions clear. But if you think that I'm doing foul shit and you hide my phone to do foul shit, you're doing the exact same thing you're accusing me of doing with a different action.
Yep.
Right? So, like, these are conversations that people need to have. This is not a gaslighting situation. If I'm okay with you going through my phone as long as I'm in the room, it doesn't matter if you still get to go through the phone. Mm-hmm. Let me have my peace of mind so that we can have a conversation if something comes up that you dislike, because then we can have a discussion. It's really loud. Give that a second, because they're right by the door.
They are.
So we can have the conversation about, yes, you can go through the phone, but I want to be able to talk to you while it's happening. Sorry about the cut. You're going to have to do it again. Yeah, going to have to do it again. They're cutting our grass.
Continue reading.
Yep.
He would demand to come over and see our son, even when I said no or during the night. He showed up once and knocked on the window while I was sleeping and pretended that nothing was wrong with doing that. Who, buddy?
Wait. So she actually did move out?
Yeah, no, she is living with her friend indefinitely.
Okay.
At this point. Homie, that's how you get shot.
Right.
Don't fucking play games like that. He acted confused that I was scared. During this time, I even had to call 911 in order to be able to leave his house because he refused to leave with our son. He refused to let me leave with our son after an argument. That evening, he had been yelling for hours, and when I said that I had to leave for the night and get our son in bed, he picked up our kid and was locking himself in the room with him. You might have to cut this. I have watched way too much Lifetime and true crime. Play that game.
Yeah, this is abusive, and this is a situation that she needs to get away from.
And he's using the child as a pawn because he knows that she is emotionally attached to the child.
Yep. This is where family court gets involved, even though you're not married.
Restraining orders, family court, like...
That piece of paper ain't going to do shit. Restraining orders don't do anything.
It's a documentation in the system.
That's it. That's all it is. Don't think a restraining order is going to keep anyone safe.
Oh, God, no. I would have a gun. I would get a dog. Yeah. I would make everybody in my life aware that this man is not safe. If grandma's watching the child and dad shows up to pick him up, no, we're not doing that. You're not allowed on the property. You have get off or I'm calling the cops.
Yeah. I don't believe, because I've watched women be abused, like physically abused a lot in my childhood. I know that police are never going to get there in time to save a life. Unless they're already in the neighborhood and they're seconds away.
It's too late.
It's too late. A restraining order is nothing more than documentation. And if somebody is crazy enough to break the law, the last thing they're worried about is that piece of paper saying you can't go there.
Right, because they're going to be able to get to you before the cops get to them.
Right.
It seemed like every time I felt like I was almost through to him, there would be a small disagreement or stressor that would make his walls come back up, and he would start treating me like the enemy again.
Didn't she say at the beginning of this that she was in an abusive relationship before this one?
Yes.
Okay, so this is now a pattern.
Yeah. With a child involved at this
now
point.
with a child involved, and there's still nothing in there about her. It's all about him. So we don't know common denominator. What page are we on?
6 out of 10.
Okay.
We're almost to 7.
Can you skim ahead? Because at this point, there's nothing that I'm going to hear that's going to make me say that she's safe.
Okay, so skipping a paragraph, she ended up moving back with him a month later. He admitted that he needed help, and it felt like they finally had a baseline.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Go back to both cameras. If I scared you, if you moved out and you were kind of free of me,
Yes.
and I showed up and scared you and locked the baby in the room with me and did all of that shit, are you coming back?
No, my last interaction would be, do not call me, do not come and see me, or I will shoot you.
Okay, where is that thought process? Because there are women who go back to those situations. I need help understanding that. If I'm afraid of someone, and that's the truth, to the point where I'm calling the cops for my safety, I'm not fucking with those people anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I want them as far away from me and out of my life as possible, no matter what. I don't give a fuck if there's a kid involved.
Yeah.
Dogs, animals, whatever. Like, I'm fuck that. Like, I'm afraid of you.
Right. And witnessing that growing up, the things that come to my mind is low self-worth, low self-esteem, hope that things will go back to the way it was during the honeymoon phase and they were avoiding the red flags, attention or voids being met, a level of selfishness, especially when children are involved. And I would have to think some sort of, I don't want to say mental illness, but some sort of mental alteration due to long-term abuse, probably in childhood.
Have you ever, I'm going to try to word this, not get us kicked off the internet. Have you ever actually been afraid for your life? Like truly thought that somebody was going to end you?
Yes.
Has anybody ever tried? Like truly tried?
No.
Because I've been in that situation and I know what that fear feels like, the people who have actually tried to eliminate me, if I saw them in public now, 25, 30 years later, I would still panic. We're all adults now. Like, all of that shit that happened in that time frame of my life is these people probably wouldn't even know who I am at this point. Mm-hmm. But because of the impact that had and the fear that was had, I would leave. Like, I'm not fucking with that. So to believe that you are truly afraid, to hear that you were truly afraid, or that you thought he was trying to truly harm you, dude, I'm gonna get hate for this. I don't believe that you were actually afraid, or that somewhere along the lines you didn't think it was going to happen. You thought it was an act, or you thought it wasn't real, mm-hmm. or it was just uncomfortable. Because there's a difference between somebody actually trying to kill you and you just being concerned.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if she was really afraid, why would she? I'm really hung up on that.
Yeah, that's something I've always been hung up on, and I think that there is subconsciously a lack of appreciation of one's life. Like, I'm not worth more than this. And I do believe that some women in those situations deserve or believe that if he kills me, I deserved it. If he hits me, I deserved it. It's a very cross-wired mindset. Like I believe that all of the receptors are misaligned, and things that should trigger life preservation triggers abandonment and the need to fight for the relationship versus to fight for oneself. Does that make sense? It's a lot. There's a fear involved in all of it. Are you still thinking?
Yeah, I need to. I think we need to move on because it's starting to fuck with me a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so it's been 4 months since the emailer moved back in. The guy had to put his cat down, and he blamed that for his disassociation. He has completely gone back on everything that was agreed upon and verbally assaults her looks. So I am not going to read anything besides this last sentence. And I think this last sentence will be enough for us to definitively give an answer on how to proceed with this. Emailer says, I am afraid of spending the rest of my life being in fight or flight mode, and I'm scared that one day it will evolve from emotional manipulation to physical abuse.
I think that if she believed that in the beginning, this wouldn't be a thing. Mm-hmm. I think that she made a mistake by going back, and being there is a danger to her and her child.
I agree. I think if any woman or man, if anybody has real thoughts of one day this person's going to hit me, you need to leave now. I have never once questioned if my man was going to lay hands on me. I'm not concerned about it. I'm not worried about it. There's not intrusive thoughts of that. That has never been a thing with my husband. That is not a normal fear in a healthy relationship. I would leave this situation and protect you and your child.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would get the court system involved.
100%.
I'm going to chime in real quick about the chat because somebody said, I know some women who have been afraid that the dad will get custody and then he'll have access to the kids without mom there to protect the kids, so they stay. That might be the case, and that might be a concern for people, and like it is definitely a concern. But if you're afraid, you have options, right? Like we know that we know the court system doesn't actually have to be proven. You can make allegations in family court, and that's it. Mm-hmm. The allegation is enough.
Yeah.
The We the Parents episode cleared that, where we had Mike and the fuck was his wife's name? Rebecca, I think. Was that right?
I want to say Rebecca.
Anyways, we had them in the studio, and we we learned a whole lot of shit from that. There are allegations made just to make the court process difficult. If you believe that your children are not safe, and that's a thing, like, I don't know. This is a problem for me. This email is a lot. I do believe that this is not safe. I believe your child is not safe, and I think that if any of you are in a situation like this, you need to fucking leave. And if you have a fear of leaving, you need to get the police involved. There needs to be documentation of everything. I'm going to go as far as to say that even if she had a hand in some of this, like I was suggesting earlier, because we don't know the situation now is not safe.
I agree.
Regardless of whether she instigated it or had a hand in it or cheated, the baby's not his.
Whatever.
Whatever. This is not a safe situation.
Right.
That's the reality that you're living in right now, and you need to fucking vacate.
Yeah. So I received an email. I just want to read this real quick. It's titled Help a Bitch Out. So I'm not sure if this is where I write into. I'm a newbie. Here's the down low. All right. Me and my husband are growing apart. I have BPD, bipolar, PTSD, and other physical ailments, and he treats me like a child. He never wants to fucking do anything with me, but I'm constantly around his friends. I asked to go to the Nicki Minaj concert, and he blames finances, yet he controls all the finances. Then he says, oh, well, I don't like her now. I'm like, bitch, she hasn't come out with new shit. I don't even know what I'm asking, but like, am I crazy? What the fuck is going on? I just want to go back to the old him. Are we growing apart? So based on what you said prior, my husband and I are growing apart. My answer is yes. I'm glad I could be of service. So this is titled A Confused Conversationalist. Dear Chris and Peach, I have sat down to write this email probably a dozen times. I would start writing to you guys oftentimes while listening to your podcast, but I would save the email to my draft folder to finish the episode I was listening to. I'm usually so moved by your advice, I will take it into consideration, apply it to my situation, and solve my problem. Now, over 8 months later, I still have yet to send you an email. Partly because I keep answering my own questions just by watching your videos.
Love that.
But also because I am scared someone will recognize my story, as I have told everyone I talk to about how healing your podcast has been for me.
Uh-oh.
So at the risk of exposing myself, here it goes. Fucking get it.
Yeah, let's talk about the courage this is going to take.
Fucking get it. Same. I have burned so many bridges. All in the name of healing. Let's go. Prefacing this with saying my apologies in advance if this gets repetitive, because as I've said, I've come back to write this email a dozen times. Also, please pardon the length. I know you like details. My husband and I have been together for 15 years. We have 6 children together.
Woo!
And we got married when we were both teenagers. We courted for a couple of months, dated for a year, and then got married. Not a long time from relationship start to marriage, but we got pregnant during that time, so that sped up our plans.
Must not have been very bad though if you 6 kids.
Yeah. Things have not been easy. I will say this marriage has been the hardest thing I've ever done. I wouldn't have to think twice about that either. In the beginning of our marriage, we caused a lot of damage to each other. We were still learning who we were, then got married, and threw babies into the mix. Things were hard for a very long time. Our biggest issues in the beginning were his cheating and my depression, which turned into postpartum depression, then manic depression, bipolar, PTSD, you name it, and I probably have the diagnosis. Background, I have a lot of childhood trauma that these diagnoses... Background, I have a lot of childhood trauma that these diagnoses, apostrophe, aside from the postpartum depression, stem from. His cheating was partly him still being a teenager and partly because deep down I may not have been what he wanted at the time. I can't speak for him though, I can only speculate what I think the issues may have been. My trauma, combined with my depression and nearly always being pregnant, nursing, postpartum stay-at-home mom to multiple small children, left me as a shell of a person for years. I was vacant, living only to meet the needs of my children. I don't think I can put into words just how bad off I was. I was riddled with anxiety, having daily panic attacks, and debating the eternal exit. Did you know that flamingo mothers are the only mothers that lose their color when they have babies?
I did not.
So the color of the flamingo comes from the shrimp or whatever they eat. The pink gets into their feathers, and that's what changes the colors. When a flamingo has a newborn, they are so focused on the child being fed that they stop eating themselves, so they lose that color.
Okay.
If you start viewing yourself as a flamingo and you recognize that your color is completely gone after the first child, and then you're going and having back-to-back-to-back babies, your color's already gone. You have nothing else to give to these children. Back into the email. I was not a spouse I would have wanted either, and I almost can understand why he had relationships with other women. I wasn't a good partner to him. Anyways, I found out about the women, and it dug my hole deeper because it left me in a worse spot mentally. I often felt, and still do sometimes, that I am not ever going to be good enough for him. I will always have the baggage of my mental illness, and sometimes I just don't think he can even understand what it is to begin to try to help me through it. He never suffered with anything like that at all. No depression, invasive thoughts, anxiety, PTSD, nothing. Not a single invasive thought?
I have a better question.
Okay.
If she knows that she's got all these labels, because she's been diagnosed with everything under the sun, apparently, what have you done about it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, where's your healing in all of this? If it's been 15 years with you, that you've been with him and you know that he's not capable of understanding, and these are all you problems, what have you done? Because I have a whole lot of trauma and I don't take that shit out on you.
Right.
I have
Likewise.
I have a whole, right. All of the abuse, all of the neglect, all of the foul shit that's happened in our lives is not our partner's fault. And we have healed enough that that doesn't interfere with our relationship. In the event that a trigger happens, we're able to go, hey, that just made me feel like X, Y, and Z, and I can attribute it to this. I now have something new to work on. We acknowledge it, and then we fucking get to work. Making excuses and using your labels as an ability to fucking not heal because, well, I have these things is bullshit.
Right.
So you're expecting him to be there and cater and do, but you're not doing either. So where does that line land?
Right.
Okay.
I agree. He's a peach, literally. He's sunshine, and I am the shadow that follows you around in the dark. Today, he is my best friend. It is a night and day difference from where we were when we started this relationship. We have been through hell and back together. He is who I need, who I want, and he makes me want to be a better person, parent, and partner every day. I can say that we grew together. I don't think soulmates are found. I think they are formed. He and I are proof of that. We are still nowhere near perfect, though. Our main issue we have today is with communication. That is a huge one, I know. Also, what your channel is mostly about, which is why I continue to listen constantly, searching for answers.
Love that.
I often relate a lot to you, Peaches, because we are both on a mental health journey for healing.
So she's doing work to heal.
Yeah.
Okay. Love that.
I have crippling anxiety. I am an over-communicator and just a long-time sufferer. If I am feeling off about something, I need to talk it through almost extensively. I want clarification. I want things explained in such great detail that there couldn't possibly be any questions as to what was meant. I need for issues to be talked about so I can fix them and move on. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the emailer a question. Where does that land when you can't fix the issue? Right? So if my husband's having a really hard day and all I can do is just be here to make sure home life is okay, is that enough for you? Or do you push until something is said like, you can do this, and then you feel like there's some sort of control you have? Because I view that as self-sabotaging behavior.
Okay. Agree with that.
Okay.
And so also on that same logic, what about the other person?
What do you mean?
Because that's very much I need resolution to be okay. What if your other person is still working through things and trying to process, and you're trying to force something to happen and it's not there yet?
Fast tracking the conversation?
To get closure.
To get closure? Okay. Now, I know that is a me problem, but I have not found a fix for that, which is why I'm writing to you guys. My anxiety doesn't let me rest. So I'm going to challenge that thought. My anxiety doesn't let me rest. You're not letting you rest because you're focusing or hyperfixating on what the anxiety is saying.
Right.
This is where that compartmentalization comes in and really helps with mental organization. If it's something that you have no influence over, why are you worrying about it?
Right. I agree with that.
Vegas is on fire and you live in Maine. We're not panicking about getting buckets of water.
Right.
Right? Okay.
I also think it's important to recognize that your anxiety is there because your body is setting off alarms.
Right.
When you realize what the alarms are and why they're being set off, you can work on what the actual problem is. So if you're anxious because you think your person's going to leave and you need closure, the issue is not that you need closure, it's that you're afraid your partner's going to leave. Abandonment, right? So you do the work and figure out what the actual underlying issue is, and then you address the issue and stop worrying about the symptom. Okay.
Something that I have really begun enjoying within myself is asking myself why. Why am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling out of control? Why am I feeling like I don't have trust right now? And then I find the answer and then I ask why again, and we peel the layers back. Oh gosh, did you hear that there was a study done on the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, that one side of the brain identifies itself with a different name? Yeah, so now there's a theory that there's two people living inside of the brain. the conscious and the subconscious. And that it's actually two personalities. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
Back into the email. I wish I could read his mind with as many questions as I would like to ask. I want to know what he is thinking because I don't often trust his responses.
So you don't trust your person.
That's the problem.
Just say that. I don't trust you.
Yeah. I feel he just tells me what I want to hear to shut me up because it is easier than him displaying what his true feelings are.
Now, what if he's actually giving you the truth and you're projecting that?
Yeah.
And you're causing all of this because you won't take him for his word.
Through years of therapy, on my part, he refuses to go. I have learned to talk about everything. It is how I solve my problems, but he doesn't agree with that. He thinks it's a great thing for me, applauds my progress, is my biggest supporter and cheerleader, but he hates when I project my skills onto him. He doesn't like to talk about anything deep. He is a very closed-off person, and he doesn't like to show emotion.
So just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone.
Right. I was just thinking, if this is how he's lived his life and he's not omitting key things to you, right? If he's just not telling you that he feels depressed today, he doesn't view that as something that
needs to be discussed.
Right. He's just having a hard day. He's getting through it. He's not being shitty to you. He's not being lazy. It's just a hard day and he's carrying on. Back into the email. I think he views emotion as a sign of weakness, so he doesn't like to have in-depth conversations with me because he can't. I put that in parentheses because he can, he just refuses to. It's extremely annoying and a silent stab at times. In conflict, when something is bothering me and I bring it up to him, he just shuts down. During conversations like this, usually I find myself talking for him, asking him 20 questions to which he can answer yes or no to in hopes of narrowing down what the real issue is. It's exhausting. He gets annoyed with me for digging answers out of him, and I get annoyed at him for not being so forthcoming with information, thus the cycle continues.
Because he's not communicating the way you want him to.
Right.
You remember that scene in Ace Ventura where he's leaving, in the second one where he's leaving the temple, and he does a slinky down the steps, and it stops at the very end. And he's like, oh man, can you believe it? Can we do it again? And he's like, Mr. Ventura, we really must be on our way. And he's like, how selfish of me. Let's just do everything that you want to do.
Yeah.
That's how I hear that in my head.
Yeah.
You can't expect everyone to communicate the way that you communicate or to process information or perceive things the way that you perceive them. Mm-hmm. We have our own lived experiences, our own cognitive biases. You should love your person in spite of that. If this is the way he is and the way he communicates, you can't get mad because he doesn't function the way that you deem appropriate.
Or process his emotions the way that you do.
Right.
Or deem things important to your level.
Communication is necessary.
It is.
But there are things that if I'm exhausted and I'm just having a rough day, I don't need to fucking complain about my day. I'm not a bitch. Like, I can be like, I'm tired. Mm-hmm. You sure that's it? Yeah, that's it. And if you're trying to ask me 900 fucking questions to find out why I'm tired, does it really matter?
Now you're annoyed.
I'm fucking tired. What does it matter? Like, I'm already tired. I don't want to fucking deal with this. Why can't you just accept I'm tired?
Yeah.
Right? Like, yep. If you've got somebody that's very straightforward and stoic, you should take them for their word. Mm-hmm. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm annoyed. I'm depressed. Whatever.
Right.
She did call him a peach earlier and said that there's nothing wrong with him and everything's always perfect in his life. And now she's saying that's not the case. Because she's got to pry things out of him to get the information. Well, if that's the case, he's not a peach. Things aren't always perfect. He's dealing with the shit the way he knows how to deal with it. And if that's how we are taught to deal with our problems as men, and it's worked for us for this long, and everything is good in our lives except for the days that we have bad days, this is a great thing. What was that study that we read, or the thing that we were talking about that it was in the last book breakdown that we were doing on, it might have been 28 or 29 that we were reading, where a husband can go to therapy and say that the last week of the relationship's been amazing, and a woman will go in and say it's been a fucking disaster because she wasn't emotionally in tune with her husband.
Right, and he said it was great because they didn't have arguments.
Right.
Yeah.
This is perception. Why do I need to go to therapy to learn how to communicate when, for the most part, my life is dope as fuck? I just have rough days every once in a while. We all do. I don't need to go to therapy because I have a bad day twice a month. Like,
Right.
I just need to get over the fact that I'm tired or my boss is a fuckface and I need to get over that or whatever. Like,
so I want to point out there's not much information here on what conversations are not happening. What kind of questions are you asking? You're playing 20 questions, but what are the questions?
right.
How can we learn to communicate better when our communication styles are so vastly different? If I have a problem, I have to talk it through right then and there, or it'll fester, bubbling into something much bigger if I sit and stew on it for too long.
Okay, so then do that.
Right. He can have an issue with something and never speak a word of it. I can always tell by his nonverbal language that something is off, so I will try to drag it out of him.
So you're anxious. You're an anxious person that needs everything catered to your wants and needs in this.
Right. So now your anxiety is being projected onto what he's going through, and you need to know the detail of every little thing the same way you need to know it about you.
Yep.
This sounds like a codependency type of situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely sounds like she needs him to do everything that she needs him to do for her to be okay.
For her to be okay, yeah.
Babe, there are times that I'm going through it that I just tell you I'm having a hard day.
Right.
Because there's nothing you can fucking do about it. Why do I need to hash out something that I've already gone over in my brain 1,000 fucking times? So now it's 1,001 just for us to now have to get into something that I've been working through all fucking day. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Let me just process my shit and I'll be fine. Sometimes we don't need discussions about life. If it's something that's going to impact you, I'm going to bring it to you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to be blindsided by shit. Sometimes it's just a me problem. And those conversations don't need to happen. That's okay.
It is. I pick up on every little change in the room. I had that kind of upbringing. I had to be hyper aware of everybody. If there was a threat, I'm aware of you. So when your body language changes, I know it. And when I notice it, are you okay? What are you thinking about right now? I'm asking that probing question. If you hit me with, I'm just going through it today. Okay, well, I'm here if you need anything. I love you.
Right.
And that's the extent of it. If you wanted to elaborate, you would. And I think an important part in all of that is that I allow you the space to process your things without digging too much.
It's important.
It is important.
This would lean into people feeling like they're being nagged, controlled. Why can't you just leave me alone for a little while? Like,
you're needy.
Right.
Yeah. Not saying that all of those are accurate. Those are just some things that somebody may say on the receiving end of this treatment, or they may experience or think.
Yep.
Back into the email. He has gotten mad at me in the middle of an argument and just stopped talking completely. He just shuts down, not saying another word. Sometimes he walks off, leaving me mad, sad, upset, and alone. It's like he can't do conversation.
Or maybe he sees no point in it.
Right. If we're running around in circles and it's, but babe, I can tell something's wrong with you. I'm just having a hard day. But no, really, like, what's the matter? Because I notice your body language changing. What's going on with you? You need to tell me. Babe, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm here to support you. You can trust me. What's going on with you? That's a lot, especially if I'm already going through it.
Right. How about we're having a discussion and you're on point 7 and I'm on point 2 and we're not able to find common ground in the discussion and we're both getting frustrated. So it's time to just stop talking for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Quiet game.
Yeah. Like, look, I need a few minutes. There's been times where we've had discussions where there was silence for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And the conversation picks up again.
Yeah. We have had moments where we're like, we are clearly not hearing each other right now. We need to calm down, refocus, regroup, and then come back to get a game plan.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's not.
Now, if you are an anxious person, that's a you problem.
Right.
Why should somebody else have to cater to that? And that's my issue in all of this. If you are somebody who has all of these problems and you've not worked through those problems, you can't expect people to cater to that.
Right.
You're wanting somebody to change to suit you instead of you changing because you're the problem in this situation. Your anxious attachment is the fucking issue. And it's affecting everyone else where his depression or his need to not talk isn't affecting him at all.
Right.
It's affecting you because you're anxious. And if you weren't anxious, it wouldn't affect you either.
Right.
I also think that it's healthy as fuck to stop talking in an argument.
Oh, I agree.
If you guys are not going, there's a difference between pouting, crossing your arms, and just
Right.
being
I'm not doing this.
right. But if you're getting to the point where you're starting to get angry and you can't have a conversation anymore, it's way, way better to stop talking than to start screaming.
I would rather be like 2 William Shakespeares versus 2 cavemen.
Yeah.
So I'm also pausing this because she said he has gotten mad at me in the middle of an argument and just stopped talking completely. And then goes on to say he just shuts down, not saying another word. Well, what is said when that happens? Is there an accusatory statement? Is there a statement made, but that statement is really your feelings and you're saying it like a statement?
Yeah.
When I feel like I no longer have the space to speak for myself, I will shut down.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to carry on this conversation anymore if what I'm saying to you doesn't matter because your words are law here.
Yeah, that's a very whole other very deep ass conversation.
Mm-hmm. It's like he can't do conversation. Background on him, he was pretty neglected as a child, so I don't think he learned a lot of conversational skills.
Okay, so if he was neglected as a child, you really think that he doesn't understand depression and trauma and all the shit that comes along with it? So now are you projecting that on him as well? Or has he learned to cope the way that he learns to cope and doesn't believe in that shit because he's learned to deal with his emotions?
Mm-hmm. And it works for him.
Right.
If he's not self-destructing and he has a successful career, home life is okay, and the only issue is you're not getting your anxiety satiated around communication, as my husband said, that's a you problem.
Yep.
It's not only with arguments, though. He could go the rest of his life without having any deep or meaningful conversations, and I think he would be perfectly happy. There's a lot of I thinks in this email.
Yeah.
A lot of I thinks.
He could go the rest of his life without having a deep conversation, and he would be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So what's wrong with that? If that's what's going to make him happy, why is that a problem?
Because it doesn't make her happy.
Right. That's her problem.
Yeah.
She wants him to change to satiate the needs of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's selfish, narcissistic. Like there's a whole lot of issues with that.
I am not content with such surface level conversations all of the time. It's draining. If you talk about the same exact thing every day, it gets old fast. If you are the one always initiating conversation, it gets old fast. It's always me. It's almost like he craves silence while I crave conversation.
In the 5 love languages, they talk about how when a talker and a non-talker get into a relationship in the beginning, it's fucking incredible because the talker won't shut the fuck up and the listener will listen. Mm-hmm. And the talker's like, oh my God, they listen. I'm finally heard. Right. I'm not a problem, blah, 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 blah. And then later in the relationship, it becomes an issue because the nonverbal person doesn't engage them in that social butterfly behavior that they fucking need. Mm-hmm. This is documented.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Continuing on, I don't know how to fix this. I have explained it to him in many different ways and in every style I can think of as possible.
Define fix this. Because fixing this would mean he has to change.
Right.
Okay. That's not fixing it.
Right.
That's fixing him to fix you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Or to satiate you.
Right.
How much longer is this email?
We're getting to the last page.
Okay.
I'm getting bored.
There it is.
Yeah. But he just won't budge. I get wanting silence or decompression time, especially with as many kids that we have, but it's never ending. It feels personal now, like he's withholding conversation on purpose. He gets overstimulated with talking with people all day at work, so he comes home and wants to play video games and talk nonsense to his friends online to decompress. I understand that, no arguments there. He has earned that time. He kisses me every time he walks through the door. He gives me bear hugs, which is healing for me and very grounding when I'm feeling overwhelmed. He's affectionate, passionate, and we have a great sex life. He's the best dad to our children. He plays with them daily, is engaging with them, comforting, and social. He helps with housework and caring for our children. He's literally the best in every other way, just lacks conversation with me. I just don't understand. Okay, so now I'm going to ask, what do the deep, meaningful conversations look like to you? Because if you're talking about gardening for 3 hours, that's not a deep, meaningful conversation to him. Is a deep, meaningful conversation talking about your guys' emotions for the last week? Or is it help me plan dinner for the next 3 days? I crave spiritually filling conversations, and you do that for me. I crave conversations that are philosophical and we can sit here and think off in tangents for hours, and you do that for me. So I'm going to repeat the question. What does a deep, meaningful conversation look like to her?
I'm going to say something really fucked up.
Okay.
Man, this is fucked up. I'm going to say it anyways. You know what this email is?
What?
This is proof that a guy can do everything he can to try to make somebody else happy and it's still not be enough. He's a good husband, a good father, a good provider. He hugs me. He kisses me. He's great with the kids. He works a hard job, comes home and plays video games, and that's his decompression time, and he's doing everything he can. He doesn't scream and yell. He doesn't argue with me. We don't fight. But I'm still going to find something to complain about.
Right. And the complaint is he is not talking his emotions the way I want him to. I know you both will suggest that I get out more, to which I would answer, I do. Ooh, so look at you jumping to assumptions and being incorrect, because we haven't said that once.
Nope. That would be the way to correct her need for social interaction, though.
Yeah, it would.
But the reason that I haven't suggested that, and I don't know why you haven't, but the reason I haven't suggested that is because the issue isn't that she wants social interaction, is that she wants it with him.
Right.
So the issue isn't other people. We have no idea what her talking looks like to other people. So why would we have suggested that?
The reason that I haven't suggested it is because the focus is conversing with the husband.
Right. Same.
And when there's an issue in the relationship, you turn inwards and not outwards.
Absolutely. I do wonder, though, now that she's brought that up, if she would be able to fill that social meter with other people, or if that would detract from her marriage and start to make her view her marriage differently.
Yeah.
If that's something that she needs to fill her love meter or her emotional intimacy meter, and she starts finding other people to fill that void, I wonder if that would eventually lead to emotional cheating.
Oh, maybe.
Or a disconnect between her and him because that need is being met by somebody else.
I do want to point out that the emailer said with full chest, I know you both will suggest that I get out more. And you were wrong. So now do a personal audit about what else you could be wrong about in assuming things. How much of this email has been an assumption at this point? He never argues if I need some time away or to myself. I go to lunches with girlfriends, shopping by myself, etc. We go on dates. We have a date night together every week. We go on family excursions. I am in school for nursing, so I have complex conversations at school that are mentally stimulating. It's not about being understimulated. I am socialized. I have friends. I just crave conversations with my husband that aren't about the kids or the weather, work, school, or whatever surface level thing is on the news that day. I need more stimulating conversation with him. It comes across like he doesn't want to talk to me. Also wanted to add that this isn't an everyday thing we argue about, just like everyone. This isn't an everyday thing that we argue about, just like once every couple of months or so. I often just take what I can get with conversation and try to engage in him in other ways. It just boils over every once in a while when I'm feeling brain dead from boredom. How can I make him see that this is a big deal to me? Such a big deal that I'm writing to strangers on the internet to try to help me. I know this sounds like a huge me problem, but lately I just don't feel seen by him. I don't know how else to make it better.
And at no point did she explain what she needs by actual, like,
deep, meaning
depth.
Stimulating conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we don't know that, you didn't explain it to us. If you explained it to him, do you even know what that means? Like, I don't know what the fuck that means. You want to talk about physics? We're talking about God?
Getting the algebra?
What are we discussing?
Yeah.
I am really hung up on the fact that this woman has a man that checks so many fucking boxes that most women would be absolutely enthralled to have a man like that. And she's bored.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to read this all. I hope you guys continue this for years to come. You are really doing a service to all of us out here. I appreciate you both and hope you have an incredible rest of your day. I believe big things are coming your way.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I want to know what an in-depth, meaningful conversation is. Because we have meaningful conversations. None of our conversations are trivial.
No.
We don't have bullshit conversations. If we talk, it's because it's worth talking about.
Right.
Lord of the Rings, when the trees are like, we don't speak very often because it takes a lot of time to have a conversation.
It does.
So we wait until it's really important to have a conversation. That's us. We have important conversations. We have a lot of stupid conversations too, but they're not trivial. Hey, I saw this. It made me laugh. I want to make you laugh.
Look at the husband and wife birds in the yard, babe.
Right. This means something to me. Yeah. Right? It's not a trivial thing. It's not, hey, Rosa has new towels in her bathroom. What do you think about that? Excuse me? I don't think about Rosa's towels. Didn't even know that was a thing. Why would I care about her fucking towels? Right? Like, yeah, that's meaningless conversation. I want to know what the conversations are that you're looking for that you're not getting from him, because I'm willing to bet that there's an underlying issue that's happening here, and it's not the conversations.
Right.
Because it started with the way that you guys were communicating in conflict and him not giving you what you need in like an argument because your therapist taught you how to talk through things and you want him to do it the same way.
Right.
And then it evolved to conversations. So what's actually happening there? Do you feel disconnected from him? Even though you're having date nights once a week and he's engaging with you over television shows and all the other things that are going on in your life and talking to you about the kids, and like he's involved in every other facet of your life. What's missing? Do you feel lonely? Is that the underlying issue? You still feel lonely? Mm-hmm. You feel like you guys are just going through the motions? Do you feel like you're in the roommate phase? Like,
yeah,
this is the conversation aspect is a surface level complaint.
Mm-hmm. I want to add on, if she is waiting for him to initiate deep, meaningful conversations, and so we are asking, what does that look like for you? Well, I don't know. I just want him to talk to me about things. So if that's the response, then you really haven't put much thought into this beyond my needs aren't being met.
Right.
And I'm expecting somebody else to fix it for me.
I think that she's lonely.
Yeah. In regards to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She probably feels disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Not, we don't have meaningful conversations because things that are important to you aren't important to me. If you wanted to talk to me about gardening, I'm going to listen.
I'm getting a phone call.
Okay. So Peach just had a phone call. We don't remember what we were talking about, so you got a weird cut there. We are going to wrap this up. We have to go hit the post office, and then she's got to come back and record the garden episode. So thank you guys for this fine Thursday interaction that we've had. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us if you're on our Patreon, listening to the live stream. And yes. For everyone else, we hope that you enjoyed the content that we've been putting out. And if you did, share the content. The best way to make sure that we keep doing what we're doing is by sharing it and getting it into new people. And remember, you are the author of your own life.
So grab a pen.
And we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.